acknowledgement. And on April 4th, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. And we're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and the water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I think we do have quorum tonight. We're just waiting on Councillor McGuire to join us. He's here. So we have all hands on deck. That's terrific. I just wonder if we have any amendments to the agenda tonight. Seeing none, we'll move on to disclosure of monetary interest. And I'm seeing none. We have no delegations, and due to the nature of the meeting, we're not having any minutes to review. And C.O. Morris, I understand there may or may not be any director's reports tonight.
Given that it's a special meeting, we will not provide verbal director's reports tonight.
Thank you. We have no correspondence. And we do have a couple of in-camera items that we will be stepping in camera for hopefully not a long period of time. And this is a personal issue about identifiable individual. So I'll seek a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls, as provided in section 239 of the Municipal Act, as amended, moved into a closed section to discuss a personal matter about an identifiable individual. So that's moved by Councillor Alford, seconded by Councillor Allen. All in favor? That's carried. So please, those of you watching, please bear with us. We'll be back in a short period.
Let's get this move back here. So Councillor Brennan is here now. Perfect.
Be back.
Now it appears we have everybody, so we can go back into open session. So we can start in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the committee of the whole meeting. I really appreciate your patience while council dealt with 2 in-camera items. One was a personal issue about an identifiable individual, and council provided some direction to staff on that. And the second was on the acquisition disposition of land. And again, council had an in-camera discussion and provided staff with direction on that. So we appreciate your patience. We're moving on to the priority issues. And the first one is with Mr. Grenke, 40 McGill Street official plan and zoning amendment report. Welcome, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Staff are presenting for committee's direction and approval concurrent official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to accommodate a new multi-residential development at the southwest corner of Thurber and McGill Street. The development proposed by Lapine would include 20 rental units in a stacked townhouse form oriented with unit entries oriented to both Thurber and McGill. This development is across the road from the larger apartment complex, which the same developers were approved for construction last year, and for which construction is just getting underway. To accommodate this development, 2 applications were required. Firstly, to amend the site-specific text of the official plan special policy area that applies to the entire former South Unit Hospital site, in this case to accommodate a proposed parking configuration. Council will recall that the text of the special policy was amended last year to accommodate parking on McGill for the larger development. However, that amendment was established before plans for this second site were finalized, and as such, the special policy area is proposed to be further tweaked. The developer also proposes to rezone the site from R4 to R6 with some special design-related exceptions intended to accommodate the development. The 2 amendments were processed concurrently, and notice was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to agencies and abutting property owners. No objections were received in writing by the town, and no objections were presented to the Planning Advisory Committee at the public meeting. And the Planning Advisory Committee passed a resolution in support of these applications. Town staff and PAC considered policies related to residential intensification, as well as feedback from agencies and departments. In this case, the Public Works Department agreed with the applicant that an access from McGill Street is optimal in terms of design and safety. The staff report summarizes the rationale behind the specific amendments requested and the design and planning rationale presented by the applicants in support of their applications. Further, there are certain community design and infrastructure policies outlined in the plan, in the official plan, that would have particular import in this context and which would be addressed in prescriptive detail through the site plan process. The applicants have filed for site plan, which is in process, and that application can only be presented for council approval if the supporting zoning policy was in place first. Staff would like to acknowledge the work of the applicants in undertaking the application, as well as the PAC and our review partners in assisting in arriving at the recommendation before council this evening. Thank you.
That was very brief and to the point, because it's a big report. Thank you, Carl. Comments or questions from my colleagues? You see the recommendation before you. Any concerns? Or Councillor Brennan?
No concerns. I support staff's recommendation. This was discussed at the PAC with myself and Councillor Alford and the rest of the members, and I think the developer addressed our questions at that time, and we supported their request. So I support it now.
And Councillor Alford, you had your hand up?
Echo Councillor Brennan. This is such a long time vacant, rather derelict spot. It's perfect for infill. I have no hesitation in supporting staff's recommendations.
I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. My comment was that I was very impressed with the quality of the report, Mr. Grinke, and with the speed with which you and your team and the developers have moved this along. So I'm, in spite of what Minister Clark might say sometimes about municipalities being the drag on housing, I think Smiths Falls has done an exemplary job with this file. I did have a question. It's great to read all of the staff comments that you circulate around for comment. And the manager of economic development commented on things that I didn't think were economic development, but then it got me thinking, what is the impact? Do we know the economic? I understand the trades are going to be from all over Eastern Ontario, and the equipment's going to come from wherever. And but what is the economic impact of adding 150 apartments right close to our downtown? Do we? I mean, we all think it's wonderful, but do we actually know what that means? Is there a formula that economic development people use that if you put a development in of that size, it has this kind of economic spin-off? And if we don't know that, I would be curious, more than curious. I think it's good business for us to understand what that means by adding this to the community. It's a question for economic development, not the planning department, but CEO Morris.
Thank you for the question. It's a insightful question, and while I don't have an answer, I'm sure someone has studied the spin-off per residential unit. So we could have a look at that. But what I can say with certainty from a municipal servicing point of view, this is ideal in terms of delivering snow clearing or refuse collection or blue box collection. Moving water through a pipe, there is an opportunity here to separate the storm and sanitary. So there are a lot of downstream, if I can use the pun, benefits to this, and we hope to take full advantage. But servicing this many units in a tight space is a fantastic urban form.
Yeah, I won't belabor it. I just, we always say, oh, that's going to be great. But what does that mean? And so even your comments, just the efficiency of delivering services, it is and the infill opportunities, like we know it intuitively, but having them listed sometime. Mr. Grinke, did you want to say something on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, with certainly in terms of qualifications or formulas, that's certainly something we can have a look into. But our official plan is broadly supportive of residential development in the downtown core. And this isn't exactly in the downtown core, it's right next to it, but certainly from a functional perspective, it's very, very close. And ultimately for local businesses downtown, having customers who can walk there, and many of these businesses don't have a lot of parking or don't have some of the access conveniences that suburban or rural businesses have. So bringing in a large number of new residents close to them provides some additional foot traffic and economic impact in that area.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't mean to get us off track. I think we've got 100% support for your recommendations. Councillor Alford, last word to you.
I will just say that when I have reported to the DBA board about these upcoming developments, they are very excited, as are their members, as word has gone out about where these are going to be built. But you're right, Councillor McKenna. It would be interesting when we're getting comments from, say, economic development to get a little more information on what, like you say, they probably have some formula or something. But that would be interest. That would be of great interest to the DBA and the DBA members. They already know it's going to be a boon to them to have people walkable, able to walk, but how much is that boom? What can we quantify that? That would be interesting to them.
And please don't go to any work extraordinary effort on my behalf. It's something, and I can do some of my own research as well. So Mr. Grinke, you've got a terrific report. Well done to you and your team. And I thank the Lapines as well for their contribution and investment in our community. And please proceed. I guess the site plan will be coming up later on. Okay. Now it's 8.2, the resolution that we received from another municipality regarding the Ontario Land Tribunal. Mr. Grink, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep this pretty brief. At a previous meeting of committee, council considered a resolution that was circulating among Ontario municipalities supporting the dissolution of the Ontario Land Tribunal. As requested, staff have prepared some additional background information regarding the resolution. As noted, some of the concerns raised are structural with respect to the appropriateness of an unelected body that can replace or reject decisions made by local councils regarding their own official plans. Many of the concerns are valid and have been documented and shared widely across the province. However, we're fortunate that by and large, this has not been part of our experience in Smith Falls recently, at least not substantially. In the opinion of staff, a planning appeal body is a check and balance in the overall planning process. Many other provinces have some sort of administrative board or tribunal, either local or province-wide, operating under a variety of authorities, but ultimately having a somewhat similar role. Well, the planning appeals process has evolved a number of times over the last few years, and that's been a constant learning experience for staff and councils. We do support an appeals process that is well-resourced, accessible, has proper regard for guiding policies, and perhaps most importantly is efficient and fast. While council has the option to pass a similar resolution in support of that adopted by other municipalities, the staff recommendation is to receive this report for information for two reasons. The first being, without in the absence of a specified alternative, is not clear as to whether a replacement of the OLT is preferable to a reformed OLT or the status quo. Additionally, as council may be aware, just last week, the province introduced Bill 109, the More Homes for Everyone Act, which proposes to implement some legislative and other changes to implement some of the 55 recommendations developed by the Ontario Housing Task Force. These changes are brand new, and staff are in the process of understanding them, as well as perhaps more to follow, more changes to follow later, either before or potentially after the upcoming provincial election. The appeals process, of course, should be part of that consideration and should be looked at by the province in conjunction with and as part of the overall review of the planning approvals and regulatory process. So with this news coming in from the province, that almost makes, in my mind, it makes the resolution a little bit obsolete at this point, now that we have some potentially larger changes that we're all trying to digest at this moment. So at this point, I'm presenting this report for council's information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Granke. Councillor Dwyer and then Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe that considering support of this motion is redundant at this point, and I will happily receive Carl's report for information.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Ditto.
Councillor McGuire, did you want to say something, or I saw a lot of thumbs up, but do you wanted to actually speak? Please do.
Yeah, I appreciate the report, Carl. I hope in the future we're a little more discerning about what we send to staff. I think it's a great report. A lot of work went into it, but Carl's a busy guy, so I don't know. I'm glad we've received it, but I hope we don't send every resolution we get to staff to work on.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire. I remember being one of the people wanting to see some context around that. And so I've benefited immensely from the report. I too agree. I don't think we were, well, anyways, I would expect, I don't see council doing this very often. This is unusual. And so But your comments are well taken. So we've received it and we appreciate the effort put in. Thank you very much, Mr. Granke. Moving on to number 9 is the adjournment. And I need a motion moved by Councillor Alford, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that the committee adjourn its proceedings at 6:30 and stand so adjourned till the next duly called committee meeting. Thank you. And for the public watching, please stay tuned for the special council meeting to follow shortly. You're muted, Nadine.
Councillor McKenna, would you take bylaw 7.1? That's the bylaw to amend the bylaw to adopt the official plan as a result of the committee of the whole meeting. Okay.
I was going to ask Mike. All right. As long as one of my planning committee people second that. Councillor Brennan, thank you.
Councillor Alfred, would you do item 7.2?
My pleasure, and that squeaky thing's back. Jay, do you want to do that one too? Because we worked on it at PAC.
Okay, so I think that everyone else has a mover. I just need the seconders for your items if you want to confirm them.
I have trivia tonight.
I'm doing the minutes, so Chris is going to do that for me.
My internet's really slow here. Anyway, just catch up.
Mayor Pinko, did you get that email from me with the proclamation? Okay.
Oh, sorry, Nadine.
Did you receive the email okay for
Yes,
pitching?
yeah,
Okay,
confirmation. Yeah,
perfect.
written the agenda here. Those out of paper. Jay, your seconder, sorry, was
Chris.
Chris. And then 7.1 is it Peter?
Yeah.
Seconded by Jay?
Yeah.
Seven 7.2, Wendy?
Yep. Second by Jay.
And 7.3, Nikki and
I don't know.
Me?
What's it for? Confirming proceedings?
yeah,
Jay will do that.
yeah, it must keep James name going all night here.
I'm going to
And-
be tired after this.
Okay. Adjournment.
Councillor
Wendy?
Alfred.
McGuire.
Seconded by- Pardon?
McGuire.
McGuire. And you have trivia.
I have some trivia. I also have one report, Sean.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I have one report too. It's just a correction from my last report.
Okay.
So, Mayor Pinko is ready. We will go. Right.
Okay, ready to roll.
Okay, so we will go live to council in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks for your patience, everyone. Welcome back to this meeting of Smith Falls Council for Monday, April 4th. On April 4th, 2022, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawn on the strength of a mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. I'll call this meeting to order. I have two announcements, two proclamations this evening. Pitch in Smith Falls, April 16th to April 30th, 2022. Whereas hundreds of thousands of Canadians show their concern for the environment and their communities each year by participating in Pitch In Canada projects to clean up and rejuvenate local neighborhoods. Whereas Pitch In Canada, a national organization comprised of eco-action and community volunteers, believes that maintaining a quality environment is everyone's responsibility. And whereas Pitch In Canada encourages voluntary action to keep communities clean and beautiful, restore and maintain a healthy environment, and instigate civic pride. And whereas Real Environmental Action League continues to provide excellent leadership and coordination of local environmental initiatives. And whereas the Real Environmental Action League is once again organizing a community-wide litter cleanup of our town. Now therefore, I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the town of Smith Falls, declare the weeks of April 16th to April 30th, 2022 as Pitch In Smith Falls weeks, and invite all citizens to participate in Pitch In activities in Smith Falls. Second proclamation is Earth Week. Whereas Earth Week Canada works with many partners to address environmental challenges through developing programs in collaboration with communities, organizations, and citizens. And whereas with the urban area set to become home to 2/3 of the world's population by 2050, and as climate change is being observed and experienced, municipalities find themselves at the front line of the battle against climate change. And whereas under the theme of Remedy Together, Earth Day hopes to raise awareness among Canadians about eco-anxiety and the need to take action together as a cure for both ourselves and to also help care for our planet. Now therefore be resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the town of Smith Falls, hereby declare April 22nd as Earth Day in the town of Smith Falls, and urge all citizens of the town of Smith Falls to participate in activities and initiatives which support environmental awareness and stewardship. Last for any disclosure of monetary interest. I see none. No delegations. Adoption of minutes is with Councillor Brennan, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor McGuire, that the minutes of the meetings of council on the 7th and 21st days of March 2022 be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McGuire. The minutes of the meetings of council on the 7th and 21st days of March 2022 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Reports. Yes, Councillor Alford.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to, I haven't reported on the Downtown Business Association. There's been quite a bit going on now that we have a full-time coordinator. So I'll just inform my colleagues and those watching. So the town's retail market analysis study that was sponsored by ACDEV was discussed at some length at the DSFBA board, and it has some really insightful and interesting information. And so the DBA is going to be emailing that out to that link out to our members, along with pages that are of interest specifically to the downtown core. It gives information on the future in terms of data, trends, and potential changes in business models that business owners downtown may want to consider. The next is to watch for the upcoming ad in the next version of Edible Ottawa that the DBA has placed. And it will also be, the good part is it takes us farther afield from just our own town, and will also be tagged in their Instagram reel in Ottawa and Toronto. The DFSBA has also embarked on a redesign of their website, which should offer more content and be more user-friendly. It's expected that process will take a few months. And last Thursday, the DSFBA hosted an information night for those businesses between Russell and Elmsley who will be directly impacted by the construction. There was an opportunity for those attending to meet and talk with the Director of Public Works as well as representatives from the engineering firm of Morrison Hirschfield and the contractor reps from Kavanaugh Construction. It wasn't, as is often the case in public meetings, it wasn't necessarily well attended, but those who did attend, I was impressed with their questions, particularly some of the main players in that construction zone. And that's it for me, Your Worship, unless there are questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you. I just have one very short announcement, and it's actually a correction to my last announcement. So the last time I gave an update on the Rideau Environmental Action League, I mistakenly said that the Real Deal store has the capacity to pick up furniture if somebody cannot provide their drop off, and I was incorrect. That is something that we have explored and examined, and we would love to do. But at this point, we don't have the capacity to. So my apologies if that caused any amount of confusion.
Thank you. Any further reports? Yes, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much a report as just a comment on pitch in and thank the community who do get involved with that, particularly Real. But the pitch in has a double meaning. It's pitch in and help pick it up, but it also means pitch it in the waste can. Do not pitch it out your car window. Do not pitch it on the sidewalk. Pitch it in a can. I've never heard so much concern about the amount of litter, not in our town, but across the country. So I don't know who the people are that throw it away like that, but please stop and make pitch in redundant. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Anything further? I'll just make one report from our Police Service Board meeting last week. The Police Service received a letter of resignation from our Deputy Chief, Richard Rick Lavelle. And so after 28 years of service to the people of Smiths Falls and 35 years in policing, and many years, of course, of dedication and professionalism, and an author of the history of Smiths Falls Police Service as well, of a book, just a wonderful gentleman, a man who'll be missed very well for the job he's done and the commitment he's made to our community, who will be retiring on June 30th. So Rick, you're not likely watching tonight, but anyway, we appreciate all you've done for our community. We wish you, I guess, a wonderful retirement and great health and happiness as you move forward to the next stage in your life. Okay. No further reports. We'll move on to our bylaws, and our first bylaw is with Councillor McKenna, please.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brennan that a bylaw to amend bylaw 8750-2014, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Smiths Falls official plan, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 8750-2014, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Smiths Falls official plan, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor McKenna?
Yes, Your Worship. The previous town meeting just before this committee of the whole meeting, our Mr. Granke presented the development, which we're more familiar with, the large apartment building going up on Elmsley and Thurber. This is a smaller 20-unit development on, I think it fronts Thurber and
McGill.
It is. And so this is a minor amendment to section 2C, the special policy area, to allow this development to go ahead. And our wonderful folks at the planning committee and staff have recommended this happen. And at the committee of the whole, we agreed with that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may I have a third reading, please?
Again, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 8750-2014, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Smiths Falls official plan, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10331-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 8750-2014, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Smiths Falls official plan, Being now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10331-2022. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Alford, you are up next.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 6080-94 of the town of Smith Falls respecting 40 McGill Street to rezone the property from R4 to a new residential type 6 special exception 6 zone be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 6080-94 of the town of Smith Falls respecting 40 McGill Street to rezone the property from R4 to a new residential type 6 special exception 6 zone be received and read the first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Alford?
Yes, this is a companion piece to the previous bylaw that Councillor McKenna had. It paves the way for a new development on the long empty lot that was the parking lot for the old South unit. Right now, it's rather decrepit looking, and the Lapines have that whole block is going to be much improved by not only their first development, but this one adds to that as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have the third reading, please?
Yes, sir. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 6080-94 of the town of Smith Falls respecting 40 McGill Street to rezone the property from R4 to a new residential type 6 special exception 6 zone be received and read a first time, be finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10332-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor Brennan, the bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 6080-94 of the town of Smith Falls respecting 40 McGill Street to rezone the property from R4 to a new residential type 6 special exception 6 zone. We now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10332-2022. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Dwyer, you have our final bylaw.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brennan that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 7th, 21st, and 28th days of March 2022 be received and read a first time and taken and read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor Brennan, the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 7th, 21st, and 28th days of March 2022 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? That's carried. Discussion, Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you. This is an administrative matter to formalize the minutes for our public record.
Thank you. And the third reading, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 7th, 21st, and 28th day of March 22 will now be read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10333-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor Brennan, that bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 7th, 21st, and 28th days of March 2022 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10333-2022. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That's it for the formal part of our business. Inquiries and announcements. Yes, Councillor Alford, you have something to share.
I do. I have some trivia this evening. What was the name of the notable woman of Smith Falls who was responsible for creating an institution that served the town from 1910 to 1995? 85 years. Particularly appropriate tonight. I'm giving you clues. Yes, Councillor McKenna.
Was it a nun from the Sisters of Providence?
Close.
I was thinking of
was
St. Francis
actually-
Hospital.
It was actually Mary E. Chambers, who in 1910 donated the Chambers homestead for the purpose of providing a new public hospital to the town. It was opened in 1912 and named the Chambers Memorial Hospital. in memory of Mary's deceased husband and son, and opened with a 50 beds and stayed that way until 1958. It was expanded, bringing the count to 94 beds, and in addition, after that, brought it to 100. Tight budgets in the 1970s saw the North and South unit merge, and the North unit was operated by the Sisters of Providence, more notable women from Smiths Falls. And in 1995, Perth and Smiths Falls Hospital merged and the South unit was shuttered. And particularly tonight, in passing the bylaw for 40 McGill, I think I did not realize that Mary Chambers was the one who donated the land, and I did not know that Chambers Street is named for that family.
Well
That was a
done.
good one, right,
Okay.
Jay? That was a good
It's a
one.
good one.
And that was my birthplace.
And yes, I know where you were born there.
Good one, yes.
Okay, any other inquiries or announcements? No? Okay, motion for adjournment. Back to you, Councillor Alfred.
Yes, moved myself, second by Councillor McGuire, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 6:51 and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alfred, second by Councillor McGuire. This council adjourns proceedings at 6:51 PM and stands so adjourned until next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.